I was born by the river in a little tent. Oh, just like that river I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die, 'cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. I go to the movie and I go downtown. Somebody keep telling me, don't hang around. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. Then I go to my brother and I say, brother, help me please. But my brother ends up knocking me down to my knees. Oh, there've been times that I thought I wouldn't last for long, but now I think I'm able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. Oh, but I know, no. But I know, yes I know, I really know a change gonna come.
I'm Erick Finnestead, and today we're here to celebrate the life, the work, the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I serve as the principal of Silver Creek High School in Longmont, Colorado, in the St. Vrain Valley School District. And over the course of the last 10 years, I've had the pleasure and privilege of working together with my good friend who's here with me today. Won't you please introduce yourself to our guests?
My pleasure, Erick. I am Glenda Strong Robinson. I was born in the segregated Jim Crow South back in the 40s, late 40s. And that means a lot of stuff. Like John Lewis, we were not able to go to the parks, the pools, the libraries. We went to segregated schools, couldn't go to the zoo, couldn't go to the fair except the last weekend of the fair. And we didn't really know what that meant until much later. But I'm grateful today to be here to tell the story of where we've come from. And our theme, of course, is why we can't wait. And so Dr. King's next to the last book title was exactly that. We hope to issue a call to action to our people because, as John Lewis said, when you see something wrong or when you see disarray in things, you should be compelled to say something and to do something. And so it's my absolute pleasure to be here, my good friend, today with you and to welcome these wonderful people to Dr. Martin Luther King's celebration. It's actually our 16th annual celebration. I've been doing this since the 90s, telling this story. And hopefully people, it's an education and people will learn that you grow by doing.
Well, you know, over the course of time, I've gotten to know you. I've gotten to chronicle your story. We've produced some films about it, you know, shared some of the call to action which you've experienced as a young woman growing up in Memphis. And, you know, our paths have crossed serendipitously on time and again. My uncle running the Boys and Girls Clubs of Memphis for 35 years. My aunt, you know, serving the students in the athletic programs at Memphis State and the greater Memphis area. And, you know, I've always been intrigued, and recently you were highlighted by the Boulder Lifestyle magazine for some of your contributions, and you truly are a living legend yourself because, you know, not only is your picture in the Smithsonian, but it's also within the Withers collection and some pretty famed photographs that had occurred there in Memphis. And so take me through that just a bit. In growing up, what was that experience for you?
Well, you know, we grew up in a very loving household. Didn't know we were poor and didn't know we didn't have anything because it was a Christian household. My parents were very faithful in their, well, they were founders actually and workers in the church. And so our association was predominantly with Black people. And we did not know, only because of the Jim Crow laws. People don't understand this, but Jim Crow laws represented separate but equal. But if anybody knows anything about segregation, it was very much separate, very much unequal. And so I didn't know that I was marginalized and disenfranchised until I went off to HBCU for one semester. At the end of that semester, my parents said, we don't have any money to, you know, send you to allow you to stay at Lane, the HBCU, historically Black college and university. You got to go to Memphis State because they're taking colors at Memphis State now. And I, of course, what? So that transition happened. I was at Lane for one semester, fall of 65, transition spring of 66. and my life was literally changed. And as they say, the rest is history.
Well, the rest is history, but you've also shared with me some pretty interesting stories of how when you grew up, it parallels something very similar in my life, that you always felt fortunate to be able to share your table and your family with those of others, and you were always very fortunate to be invited to others' tables. And that process of breaking bread, that process of being able to connect on a communal level, something over food, as simple as it may be, it keeps us happy. And as a young man growing up, where I did, I grew up in a diversified neighborhood, and you could say that I got to live out on behalf of Dr. King's dream, as do my children. And for me, for that to come full circle, it was wonderful to be able to be invited to, whether it was, my Greek neighbor's home or my Jewish neighbor's home, or sharing a backyard area with our friends from Egypt who had moved in, or the Irish Catholics. And to me, I was always fortunate that our family was able to invite people to our table, whether that be my desegregated football team, basketball team, and really embrace that idea of community. And I always felt fortunate as a young man, and I reflect on that today as an adult, of my fortune to be able to be invited to other people's tables. And that is really what allowed me to develop an affinity and a love for all cultures, and all cultures having one voice. And as we look over the course of the last year here, we've had a tough year. We've had a tough year. There's been division, and I don't know that it's just been this last year. It's been a long time, and there's been a lot of division out there. And really, as we look forward, how do we bring this back together?
Speaking of that, and thank you for sharing about the unity that your family shared. My parents certainly shared unity with all races and all types of people as well, and they were invited into our home, and we got to see that firsthand. Thus, today, our framework has to be about having unity in the community. We've witnessed on live television a person, George Floyd, be killed, murdered, it just before our very eyes. Breonna Taylor was shot in her own bed. Ahmaud Arbery was killed jogging down the streets in Georgia. We've witnessed some peculiar, unbelievable things that happen on a daily basis. And even later, man, there is so much going on in our lives today. We don't know where it's going to lead. Thus, the desire, the command, the request, the begging, come together. Bring this community, bring this unity into this community. We've got to be one. As a matter of fact, the man we're honoring today gave his life for that. I had a lady walk up to me today and say, I like Martin Luther King, and I tell you why I liked him. Because he said that it was his desire that we all be one, and that you had to, that everyone should come together at the table of brotherhood. And I said, yeah, that was good. I said, but you also know he paid the ultimate price for the freedoms that we enjoy. This oneness and this love, he paid the ultimate price, and it did cost him his life.
Well, as we look at that, I'm reminded of in the letter from a Birmingham jail, where he calls upon not just those within his congregation, but he calls upon everybody. And he calls upon everybody, identifying the injustice that is there and how we all must work together to overcome that. And people are wanting to engage in this process. People are asking, what can we do? And why we can't wait. And Dr. King in Montgomery, he said, "How long? Not long." And at the conclusion of that long-awaited march that occurred from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama, King stood on the steps of the state capitol, and what did he proclaim? He proclaimed, how long? Not long. Because no lie can live forever. How long?
Not long.
Because you shall reap what you sow. He said, how long?
Not long.
Because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice, unquote. And that was after a march that was unsuccessful several times leading up to that event in an effort to ensure voting rights for American citizens and to ensure voting rights for everyone.
Yes, and as a young man, John Lewis heard these words and was called to action. He couldn't wait to join the march. He joined the March on Washington in 1963 and goes down in history as the youngest speaker there. He was in his 20s. And then as he joined that, in being called to action, he could not wait to join after the March on Washington in 1965. He organized and participated in the march from Selma to Montgomery for this very thing that we are fighting about today, the right to vote. Every American's right. And so John Lewis led he joined that march to Montgomery and suffered 2 defeats at the Edmund Pettus Bridge. But undeterred, he joined again the March for Equality and the right to be able to vote on March 25th. That march, along with the assistance of the National Guard from Selma to Montgomery, took them all the way into the Capitol, 54 miles and several days. But they got the right to vote, and in August of 1965, we were given that right to vote.
You reminded me, in our work over these last 10 years, the question stands as, what will you do? And over these last 10 years, we've been working on this project, and members of the Longmont Multicultural Action Committee were looking to expand upon the already terrific events that we celebrate here in Longmont, Colorado, that brings us together as a community. This came by way of fruition and of the celebrations such as the Chinese New Year that we have here in Longmont, the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. event that we have, the Cinco de Mayo event, Unity in the Community, the Veterans Day Parade, the celebration of our country on the 4th of July, and the Inclusive Communities event. And I'm very happy about this work.
Yes, I too am so happy, Erick. What's unique about this year's event is that it's a county-wide event. And there are a number of very significant organizations and people who are coming together, that unity that we were talking about, the need to come together. If there ever was a time that folks needed to come together, I would say that it's right now, and thank you for agreeing with me. So this event includes the City of Longmont's Multicultural Action Committee, the City of Boulder's Human Relations Commission, and Office of Arts and Culture, Boulder Valley School District, the St. Vrain Valley School District, of which you are a part, the NAACP of Boulder County have all come together and been allowed to take this event online and bring it to you together. That's the key word, unity, togetherness, binding us together in the largest event of its kind in northern Colorado. Additional support has been provided by the First Congregational Church of Boulder and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints of Longmont. We're so grateful for all of this collaboration.
We are, and a very special thank you to Silver Creek High School, Niwot High School, Boulder High School, Modern Icon Media from Longmont, Colorado, Lexmark, and the City of Longmont's Community and Neighborhood Resources Division for their contributions to enable the programming. We'd also like to share a very special thank you to the Withers Collection for their support today, Madeline Woodley and the Colorado Heritage Community Choir, Mr. Ed Dwight, Kerrie Joy, and performing artist Such, who you'll see later today in our program.
Yes, and what started out, Erick, as an event of about 100 people has grown to an event that we hope today perhaps could reach thousands. It's unlimited because together we can. Together we can share a message of solidarity. Together we can share a message of education. Together we can share a message of tribute. Together we can share a message of celebration. Together we can share a message of service. If that's not the order of the day, I don't know what is. There is a quote by a poet who says, "Together we can do more."
Absolutely. And it's our hope that our programming today respects the pillars from which we have founded this program and event. You'll find the incredibly powerful tool of education woven throughout the program. You'll find the solidarity in the message of love, of unity, of justice, of peace throughout the program. You'll find the message of tribute as we explore trailblazers and the enduring legacy of Dr. King. You'll find celebration throughout the program as we lift up the arts and the contributions of members of our artistic community. And our hope, our sincere hope, is that you too will be called to action and provide service through the inspiration that you witnessed today and through the inspiration that I've had the pleasure of being a part of for the last 10 years and the benefit of sharing my friendship with you.
What a pleasure and what a joy. I love you, my friend. God bless you.
Today, ladies and gentlemen, we're joined by our mayor, Mr. Brian Bagley. We've had the privilege over the course of the last 10 years to work with several mayors in the city of Longmont for their support of this event, for the support of the Longmont Multicultural Action Committee, amongst many other initiatives that make our community and our city a wonderful place where we all belong. It's my privilege and it's my honor to introduce our friend and fellow, Mr. Brian Bagley, the Honorable Mayor of Longmont, Colorado.
Hi there, everybody. This is Mayor Brian Bagley from the city of Longmont, and I'd like to give everybody a huge welcome, and by everybody, I mean the entire world, to the 16th annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. celebration. And of course, we're all dealing with an unprecedented pandemic, and so I am appearing virtually, actually recording this several days before the actual event, but I am there in spirit, as we all are. And today, I would like to read a proclamation designating January 17th to the 23rd, 2021 as honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Week in Longmont, Colorado. Whereas January 18th, 2021 marks the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, on which we honor Dr. King's unwavering fight for the absence of oppression and the presence of opportunity for all, who sacrificed to sow the seeds for a movement of peace, equality, and justice. And whereas across the nation and the state of Colorado and the city of Longmont, honoring Dr. King has become a week of service within our communities. Events held throughout Boulder County are made possible by the commitment and dedication of many volunteers from diverse backgrounds. The combined efforts of these volunteers are a fulfillment of Dr. King's dream and highlight the importance of the civil rights movement and the need to take action. And whereas Ms. Annette James has a dedicated commitment to outstanding community service in sharing the importance of the civil rights movement, Dr. King's legacy, and keeping the dream alive for future generations throughout Boulder County, now therefore, I, Brian J. Bagley, Mayor, by virtue of the authority vested in me, and the City Council of the City of Longmont, do hereby proclaim the week of January 17th to the 23rd, 2021, as honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Week in Longmont, and I invite all to attend the virtual program honoring Dr. King. Signed, myself. A special thanks I want to give is to the school districts of Boulder County, specifically St. Vrain Valley School District and Boulder Valley School District, as well as many other organizations that have helped prepare this event today. I also would like to congratulate the cities of Boulder County, specifically Boulder County, for combining forces and coming together to do this as one voice and one body. Because truly, as always, in the spirit of Dr. Martin Luther King, that's what we all need to do. So welcome, and thank you once again for including me in such a wonderful celebration.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my esteemed honor to welcome Annette James. Annette is the president of the NAACP Boulder County branch, and she will accept the proclamation presented by the mayor, as well as issue a call to action for each of us. Annette James.
Thanks to each of you for choosing to honor the work of Dr. Martin Luther King. The discrimination, the injustices, the disparities so evident in our society are on full display. The time is now to hear from our friends. It is the time to do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as ever you can. Join NAACP Boulder County and get in some good trouble.
Hello, my name is Dr. James Hill, principal of Boulder High School. It is my pleasure to introduce the Boulder High School Orchestras under the direction of Mr. Ryan Woodworth. We are so grateful to be a part of this collaborative project honoring the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The first selection the orchestras will perform is We Shall Overcome, inspired by I'll Overcome Someday by Reverend Dr. Charles A. Tinley, and arranged for string orchestra by Mr. John Kroon. As you may know, this work helped build courage for African Americans as they struggled before and throughout the Civil Rights Movement. Part of the melody can be found in early European melodies from the 1700s, and little by little evolving with new lyrics, including I'll Be All Right and No More Auction Block for Me. In 1900, Dr. Tinley brought in the lyrics, I'll Overcome Someday. Finally, in 1945, the piece that we know as We Shall Overcome first appeared as a protest song during the labor strike against American tobacco in Charleston, South Carolina. African American women were seeking a pay raise up to 30 cents an hour. They sang this song as they picketed in solidarity. Many performers and musicians have inspired new lyrics and made this work widely known, including Pete Seeger. This has been a very positive and impactful project for the students of the Boulder High School Orchestra as they did research in finding the music to be performed here for you today. We are also grateful for the collaboration with several musicians and faculty from the University of Colorado School of Music and multiple orchestras at Boulder High School. Each musician recorded their parts separately. The final video and audio are compiled here as a culminating performance. Musicians, thank you for your collaboration and hard work. We hope you enjoy this virtual performance of We Shall Overcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a world premiere performance for you today. Our friends, you're in for a treat. We have two incredible performing artists that are joining us to present I've Become. Kerrie Joy, the first half of this duo, is an artist, educator, entrepreneur, and organizer. Kerrie channels her creativity through poetry, hip-hop, song, short story, graphic design, and fashion. She uses these artistic mediums as vehicles to spread consciousness and inspire civic engagement.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, performing I've Become, along with Kerrie Joy, such.
Watch these tears fall down, resurrect the ground. Ashes to generations claiming the sun. What I've become, you can't hold me now. Watch these tears fall down, resurrect the ground. Ashes to generations claiming the sun. What I've become, you can't hold me now. Mama once told me, baby, you can be anything you wanna be, but black feels lonely. Yo, America, you own me. So I don't stop until they're all free. And I probably shouldn't hold my breath, but my people them can't breathe. You see, we are one out of many. So take notes, this is how God's handle things. Jump invisible borders cause we deserve peace. On lands where white men still their humanity. So casually, I remind you I am holy. That these bars holding bodies release melodies. Call them vibrations, prayers, just know my soul speaks. Awakening my people to defend me. Y'all avenge me. Watch these tears fall down, resurrect the ground. Ashes to generations claiming the sun. What I've become, you can't hold me now. Yeah. This is voodoo and it's a session. Limpias and intuition. This is ancestral medicine. A thorn, eagle feathers and peppermint. Or maybe this is an intervention. I hear freedom rings, when will we answer it? Cage birds sing, imagine harmonies released with their wings, y'all. It could be heaven, it could be so simple. I know we'd rather make it hard. I know we'd rather ask for patience and forgiveness than for courage. No, we'd rather hoard power so we can settle this race. I know we'd rather my thoughts and prayers to make change. I know one day we'll fly away, oh glory. I know one day we'll fly away, but we can't rest till that day meets today. My soul cries freedom and you know we can't wait. Watch these tears fall down, resurrect the ground. Ashes to generations claiming the sun. What I've become, you can't hold me now. Sing it to me, son. Watch these tears fall down, resurrect the ground. Ashes to generations claiming the sun. What I've become, you can't hold me now. Watch these tears fall down. Watch these tears fall. Resurrect the ground. Ooh. Ashes to generations claiming the sun. What I become, you can't hold me now. You can't hold me now. Watch these tears fall down. Ooh. Resurrect the ground. Ashes to generations claiming the sun. What I've become, you can't hold me now.
From time to time, we all experience storms in our life, and we get past them. On the other side of the storm, sometimes a rainbow, sometimes the sun, and the warmth upon your face. The Silver Creek Chamber Singers will be performing "The Storm is Passing Over" by famed composer Charles Albert Tindley and arranged by Barbara Breaker. Tindley is widely recognized and considered the father of modern black gospel music. He is also credited with writing "I'll Overcome Someday," later becoming "We Shall Overcome." "The Storm is Passing Over" was released in 1905 as a collection of music. While Tindley was born free, his parents were enslaved, and for much of his youth, he worked as a free hired hand alongside slaves in Maryland. Slavery led to the creation of field hallers, spirituals, and the roots of Tindley's and our country's gospel music. In his adulthood, he moved to Philadelphia, and he became incredibly well studied in many languages. He led his own ministry. He produced the foundations of black gospel music, which is something that is uniquely American, and uniquely American in the canon of our greater composition. This stylistic repetition that is heard in the piece is representative of the genre, owing its roots to African tradition. Learning musical styles of many African American composers is important so as to create a holistic knowledge of our American history. Those who were enslaved and the first few generations beyond. They bore such musicians, and they were bound by none other. Their work is authentic. It represents a new and enduring genre that once again gives way to ragtime, jazz, rock and roll, rap, and so much more that we see in our musical canon in American history. I'd like to credit Miriam Altman for her interpretation of this history, and this song, originally written by Charles Albert Tindley, is performed today by the Silver Creek Chamber Singers.
thank you for all the kind words about my great accomplishments, but I don't look at any of these things as great accomplishments, as you know. But but to give you a little bit of background, I'm from Kansas City originally, and I was lucky enough to have one of the most incredible mothers in the universe. From the time I was like 2 or 3 years old, I was at the airport just about every day. Mom started me in school when I was 2. And she had me in every art class, every hand-to-brain coordination kind of situation that she could find. It was an experimental class like Head Start is today, and they wanted to know whether little black kids, if they started early enough, could they grow up and be incredible people. And so that got me started, and I was a class artist. In elementary, in kindergarten, I was a class artist in elementary school. I was a school artist in high school. But this flying thing was stuck in my head, mainly because I was going to the airport every day and seeing these guys fly. They're all white guys, of course. And I didn't think this flying and blacks, because Kansas was segregated. But Mom did everything to protect us against that segregation thing. And so we were Catholic, and she decided that we were going to be Catholic all the way through. So she integrated what she did, because she went to the school system to ask them would take some black kids. It was a white high school, of course, and they said no. So she ended up writing the Pope in the Vatican, and the Vatican made them desegregated. That sounds crazy, back in 1940s, but that's what happened. And I grew up in this white environment all the way through the whole process. I was dealing with white people rather than black people, and so that's why I didn't know a lot about the black culture and all the stuff that was going on in the black community, because Mom protected us from that. But I got into the military, did really, really well, graduated near the top of my class in flying training, and I went on and got a degree. I had a sign shop when I was 14 years old with the art thing, because I was going to be an artist, by the way. And so my dad sat me down and said, "What are you going to do?" I says, "I'm going to be an artist." He said, "No, you're not. You're going to engineering school." And Mom, when I was 9, Mom said, "You've been sitting around long enough. You need to get a job." And so she got me 2 paper routes, and was still having a paper route that I really got into flying, because I had the white paper and the black paper. And when I was throwing my black paper, on the front page of the call paper above the fold was a black pilot from Kansas City. He was 5'4" tall, like me, and he had got shot down in Korea. And I said, "Oh my God, they're letting us fly." And so I applied for pilot training immediately. And I had a reason for this, because Mom got me a library card when I was 4. And when the war started in 1941, they had these Air Corps flying training manuals. And since I was at the airport, I took these home, and I've been studying these. I had a permanent checkout of these books, and I was learning all about flying. And so they sent 3 of us to Denver to get tested for pilot training. 33 of us. I was only black. Of course, I was the only one that passed. But I had been studying those manuals for years, and when I sat down out at the Lowry Air Base and took the test, it was a 2.5-hour test, and I did it in 20 minutes. But that got me started, and once I got started, I finished my degree in aeronautical engineering. I changed from art to aeronautical engineering because I got accepted for pilot training. And so I graduated cum laude from Arizona State University because I was stationed there in pilot training. And so that got me rolling in the military, and I did really well. I did so well that I got selected by President Kennedy to be the first black astronaut, and which I didn't apply for. I didn't want to be an astronaut. I had nothing to do with that because I thought these guys were nuts. And the next thing you know, I'm one of them. And so because of the the racial climate at the time, because NASA had just been formed in 1958, and the first group of astronauts were in 1959, or a year later. And so Kennedy comes along in 1961, 2 years after this whole thing got started, and to put me in the middle of this whole astronaut thing. And of course, NASA was upset about it. All the white Republicans were upset about it. The tax base in the United States were upset about it, because the whole idea was they had spent millions of dollars making these first 7 guys heroes. Okay, you know, they could leap tall buildings at a single bound, and you know, and if you put a black in there or a woman, these guys, wait a minute, these guys cannot be heroes. I'm sorry, that just can't be. And so I got a lot of resistance, and when the president got killed, that kind of ended my career, because he appointed me. Next group of blacks were actually 20 years after I was involved in it. I left the military because of all the controversy. You know, the whole thing got really, really personal, and it was all over the newspaper, and it was just a giant-sized mess. But I got out, and I didn't know what civilian people did. I mean, you know, because I just realized I was in the service for 12 years, and I was told what to do every day of my life. And so I went into private industry, and me being an overachiever, I had 5 companies. I had an interior decorating company. I had an executive aviation, where I was flying people around the country. I had a construction company. I had five restaurants. I had all these companies doing all this stuff. In my construction company, I was taking all the metal out of my construction sites. Every day I drive by my construction sites and take all the metal and take it home, and I taught myself how to weld. And so I was welding all this art from my house. Our black lieutenant governor saw some of the work that I did, called me to his office and told me that they needed a sculpture of him for the Capitol. And I said, well, I don't do that kind of stuff. You know, I weld junk together and make abstract art out of it. And he just told me, he says, what's going to happen to you, Dwight? He says, you're going to be the most famous black sculptor in the country, you know, after I get through with you. And I told him he's crazy, you know. And so he said, go down to the library, get a book, and teach yourself how to sculpt, which is what I just did it as a lark. And then he said something to me about, Ed, you know, blacks have been on the continent here for 300 and some years. If you ever went into any public space, there are no blacks in museums, libraries, in public squares. And so what you're going to do is to put black history in every public square, every museum that you can find. And again, I told him he was crazy. I asked George, what do blacks do, is what I asked him, because I had no background in black history. And he looked at me. I said, "Are you nuts? What do you mean?" And he said, "Have you ever heard of Harriet Tubman?" At the time, I was 42 years old. I said, "No. What did she do?" Then he went down the list: Frederick Douglass and Nat Turner. He went down to all these people. I had never heard of these people. I was 42 years old. I had never heard of them. And so he got me 2 stacks of books, 16 books. And he said, "What I want you to do, Ed," he said, "get one of them jets you got out there, and I want you to fly around the country to see if you can find any blacks in the parks, in the museums, in gallery, anywhere." And I did. I mean, I stopped what I was doing, and first went to Atlanta, and then I started traveling around. I couldn't find any black faces, no black history, nothing. And I came back, and I said, "I see what you mean." And I sold all my companies and went back to school at 42 to get a master's degree in sculpture. And they told me, "You can't do that because your degree's in engineering. We can't give you a graduate degree in art, dude. What's wrong with you?" And so I said, "I tell you, I'll make you a deal." I said, "You put me in as a conditional student, And if I get anything less than a B in any of my classes, you can throw me out, you know. Within 6 months at the University of Denver, I was running the sculpture department. And so sounds crazy, but that's what happened because of the background, and the things that I was doing. I mean, I had learned a lot of administration about how to run things. So I ran the sculpture department. I was there for 3 years. And then after I got my master's, I started doing memorials at George's request. And then they got bigger and they got bigger and they got bigger. And the next thing you know, I've done 130 memorials around the country. So.
Okay, so Mr. Dwight,
Yes.
on behalf of the Boulder County 2021 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Planning Committee, we'd like to present you with this Lifetime Achievement Award, and it's going to Mr. Edward Dwight Jr. as a national trailblazer and a living legend who has dedicated his life to not only making history, but preserving history.
That's fantastic.
And I am Minister Glenda Strong Robinson, chair of the committee,
Yeah.
and Madeline Strong Woodley, my sister, is the program chair. And it's presented this 18th day of December, 2020.
Thank you.
God bless you, and thank you for all of your accomplishments.
Well, thank you very, very much. I'm really, really, really humbled by this, you know, and I get awards and stuff, but you know, people don't do things to get awards. You know what I mean? And that's not in your brain, but when you get them, I mean, it's just phenomenal, fantastic. And I'm going to put this with my other great stuff. When I build a museum to it, it's going to be hanging on the wall. Okay.
Okay.
You know, Dr. King, he shared with us that fateful speech about Up to the Mountaintop. Do you recall it?
I absolutely do.
And it was prophetic on that day. And since that time, it's been memorialized in a song called Up to the Mountain. And Up to the Mountain was released in 2005 by Patty Griffin. And the song is in reference to Dr. King's speech, I've Been to the Mountaintop. And that was delivered a day before his assassination in Memphis on April 3rd, 1968. I've been there. I know you have too.
Remember it well.
During the speech, King shares emphatically his desire for peace and the perseverance that is needed to achieve the goal of peace, regardless of what may be encountered. A united, peaceful, and inclusive world is elevated both in Dr. King's speech and also in the song Up to the Mountain. Since first appearing in 2005, other prominent artists have performed the song, citing the message of love and hope, including those such as Solomon Burke, famed civil rights singer and dear friend of Dr. King, Kelly Clarkson, Jeff Beck, Susan Boyle. Performing tonight's solos from the Silver Creek Chamber Singers will be Abby Flynn, Avery Cryer, and Purnima Ramesh, accompanied by Evelyn Kia, and under the direction of Mr. Jeremy Skelton, we welcome back to the stage the Silver Creek Chamber Singers with this rendition that is arranged by Mac Huff and originally written by Patty Griffin. Up to the Mountain, ladies and gentlemen.
I went up to the mountain because you asked me to. Up over the clouds to where the sky is blue. I could see all around me, everywhere.
feel like
Sometimes I feel
I've never been nothing but tired.
nothing but tired.
And I'll be walking till the day I expire. Sometimes I lay down.
Sometimes I lay down.
No more can I do.
No more can I do.
But then I go on again, because you asked me to.
Some days I look down, afraid I will fall. And though the sun shines, I see nothing at all. And then I hear your sweet voice, oh, oh, come and then go, come and then go, telling me softly, you love me so. The peaceful valley just over the mountain. The peaceful valley, few come to know. I may never get there, ever in this lifetime, but sooner or later, it's there I will go. Sooner or later, it's there I will go.
Next, the Boulder High School Chamber Orchestra, with guests from the University of Colorado, will perform a work titled Adoration by Miss Florence Price. Miss Price was born in 1887 and passed away in 1953. She was the first African American woman to have her music performed by a major symphony orchestra, the Chicago Symphony, in 1933. She graduated from New England Conservatory and became a pianist, organist, composer, and teacher in Little Rock, Arkansas. She was refused admission into the all-white Arkansas Music Teachers Association. This strong woman then founded her own teachers group, the Little Rock Club of Musicians, and taught music at the segregated schools until she moved to Chicago in 1927. Since her death, Miss Price's legacy continues both in using her name as an elementary school in Chicago and an international composition competition through the University of Maryland School of Music. Adoration was composed in 1951, originally from organ. This beautiful composition has a melody that will ring in your ears for days to come and has become a standard part of her repertoire collection. We hope that you enjoy.
In January 2022, a comprehensive touring exhibit of the Withers collection will be held at the Dairy Arts Center, located in Boulder, Colorado. We are truly excited because this traveling exhibition will provide a brief entry into the most comprehensive photo collection of the civil rights era photography. Dr. Ernest C. Withers remains the most noted and credited civil rights photographer. His work captures the struggles, the people, and the triumph of the 50s and 60s civil rights era. We're welcoming today a preview of this collection, and in conjunction with the Withers Collection Museum and Gallery, located on the iconic Beale Street of Memphis, Tennessee, we present to you this very special release. We would like to graciously thank Rosalind Withers, founder of the museum and gallery, along with Chuck O'Bannon, producer. Both my sister Madeline and I are from Memphis and share many memories there, including the connection with the Withers family, as well as the Withers Museum.
Pictures Tell the Story, a comprehensive look at history through the lens of photojournalist and historian Dr. Ernest C. Withers Sr. Dr. Withers' largest collection is exhibited at the Withers Collection Museum and Gallery on world-famous Beale Street in Memphis, Tennessee. Pictures Tell the Story is a virtual tour of the images displayed in the museum and presents a series of photographs taken by Dr. Withers covering the civil rights movement, including the Montgomery bus boycott, the March Against Fear, the Little Rock Nine, and the trial of Emmett Till.
The trial of Emmett Till's murderers was basically already decided before the trial occurred. The charges that were brought against those men, the jurors, the whole system at that time was already against justice for Emmett Till.
From the Memphis sanitation workers' strike through the last days of Dr. Martin Luther King, each segment of Pictures Tell the Story offers historical facts and commentary about the events he documented and how he saw these life-changing times.
Knowing that this history is not only African American history, but it's American history. And to see what a race of people went through and struggled, and to be captured through the lens of Dr. Ernest C. Withers, that hit home to me.
Pictures Tell the Story takes an iconic look at Negro League baseball and the people who made it legendary. The history of the blues, rhythm and blues, and the musicians that captured a generation.
My favorite song by my grandfather actually is I Like to Live the Life That I Sing About. But my favorite blues song of all time is Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City. And as you all know, that's a Bobby Blue Bland song. So, and I call him Uncle B.
A unique teaching and enlightenment tool, Pictures Tell the Story is more than a chronicle of African American history. It is a moving look at the hidden side of American history, the side you really need to know.
Withers took a lot of really intimate photos of famous figures like Dr. King, Aretha Franklin, Sam Cooke, Jackie Robinson. Photos that you really don't get from other archives because Withers knew them on a personal level and they were allowed, into spaces that other photographers weren't.
Dr. Withers' photographic works are being exhibited throughout the U.S. and Europe and in museums across America, including the Museum of African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C.
His history is our legacy.
Pictures Tell the Story will be released in January of 2021.
So Erick, it's my honor to present you with this kente cloth that originated in Ghana, and it represents the solidarity with those who stand with us as we celebrate our own origins and respect our past.
Well, it's my honor. Thank you. And we stand together. Well, ladies and gentlemen, our friends here today, I want to just pause for a moment and say thank you. This is a great honor for me, and I very much appreciate it. And I very much appreciate and value our friendship and all that we've been able to do over the course of this time in celebrating the work of Dr. Martin Luther King, in celebrating your life, and bringing happiness, joy, greater understanding to my own.
Thank you.
I'd like to share with you that the Silver Creek Chamber Singers have engaged in the process of learning about the contributions of early African American composers and their contributions to the canon of American music composition. In the piece Ride On, King Jesus, you see the use of veiled language and the call and response technique, both of which were common in the early field hollers and the African American music of the 1800s. Veiled language was used as a way to communicate, and in this case, it is widely believed that the term Jesus was representative of the enslaved African American themselves. It also talks about the phrase, "No man can hinder me." And that was representative of the dream of better days, a salvation without slavery, and the equality that was longed for by African Americans and those supporting the cause of abolition. First accounts of the transcription of this song date to 1867 in the publication Slave Songs of the United States. And during this time in American history, it's widely accepted that African American music was only accepted as it was heavily anglicized. As such, the veiled language was used as a personal expression of toil, of tribulation, and as a way forward. For enslaved African Americans were generally not allowed to speak their native languages. The music provides both an escape and a connection to their culture. The idea of call and response, such as used in this song, can be traced through to both early Islamic and Christian chants, and giving way to the roots which would someday become the foundations and origins of the uniquely American music that we know today, including blues, jazz, R&B, and rap music. Popularized by the Fisk Jubilee Singers in the late 1800s, this melody allowed them to tour the country, generally along the previous Underground Railroad route, and raise money for the historically black college located in Nashville, Tennessee. If everything goes as planned, you're going to be in for a treat, not only for this performance, but the Fisk Jubilee Singers will be coming to Boulder County in 2021. And in the meantime, we'd like you to enjoy the Silver Creek Chamber Singers with their exploration of Ride On King Jesus, arranged by Alice Parker and Robert Shaw, under the direction of Mr. Jeremy Skelton, the Silver Creek Chamber Singers.
Ride on, King Jesus, no man can hinder me. Ride on, King Jesus, no man can hinder me. I was but young when I begun, no man can hinder me. But now my race is almost done, no man can hinder me. Ride on, King Jesus, no man can hinder me.
Recorded in 1971, one of the most influential songs and celebrating 50 years this year, Imagine, resonates as a commitment to peace, inspired by his wife Yoko Ono's poetry in the piece entitled Grapefruit. Lennon toyed with her introductory line of Imagine, commonly used as an opening line in Grapefruit, and you can hear in its reprise throughout the song. Many years later, in 2017, Ono was finally credited with having contributed to the song's creation. Stevie Wonder, Joan Baez, Freddie Mercury, and Queen, even Diana Ross and David Bowie, have all covered Imagine at various times. Whether now or 50 years ago, the enduring effort of the song to promote peace is as relevant today as it ever was. It's our opportunity to welcome the Niwot High School Choir under the direction of Laura Walters singing Imagine.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. And no religions too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us. Then the world will be as one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of men.
Sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us. And the world
So Erick, as was depicted in my marching days back in the 60s, these gentlemen are marching to sing to the tune of that #1 song, We Shall Overcome. And so as they march arm in arm, and every rally that I had the opportunity to attend closed with that #1 song, We Shall Overcome.
It's been taken worldwide, and over the course of this time, We Shall Overcome not only is a civil rights anthem, but it's a worldwide anthem. We Shall Overcome has been sung from the United States to Northern Ireland, to South Africa and the Soweto district, to North Korea, to China and beyond. In 1901, Albert Tinley produced a song entitled I'll Overcome Someday. The song is even to have its first verses and narrative in the 1792 song of O Santissima. And the nomenclature had been presented in a hymn written by Beethoven himself. This has been adapted into many forms, reflecting the call and response technique and the narrative that is seen in working songs, seen in political songs, folk songs, and civil rights songs. From farm workers to tobacco workers, to civil rights marches, We Shall Overcome quickly has become a unifying force throughout the world. President Lyndon Johnson once famously said, and I paraphrase, "Their cause must be our cause too, because it's not just African Americans, but really it's all of us who must overcome the crippling legacy of bigotry and injustice, and together we shall overcome." It is my pleasure to once again invite the Colorado Heritage Community Choir and the Silver Creek Chamber Singers to help us close today's event with their rendition of We Shall Overcome.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday.
We shall all be free. We shall all be free. We shall all be free someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall all be free someday. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday.
History has looked favorably upon people who have upheld the values of justice, of peace, of equality, of unity. And when I think about that, I think about those in history like Mother Teresa, like Abraham Lincoln, or Cesar Chavez, Or perhaps we can think of Mahatma Gandhi and his work in India. And we think of Dr. Martin Luther King, and he said, poignantly, we may have all come on different ships, but we're in this boat together now. And together, we all have something that we can contribute.
Yes, and as I reflect on Dr. King back in 1968, just before he was assassinated, Dr. King was constantly issuing us the challenge of when we see situations, when we see things that are wrong, instead of pointing to someone else and saying, you do it, or they're going to do this, or they're going to get that. No, he asked us to ask an individual question. What will I do when I see injustice? What will I do when I see something wrong? It's my responsibility to make a difference here. And you've heard all those challenges issued today. My question to you is, what will you do?
And while Dr. King may have had the question, in memoriam, I believe John Lewis may have had the answer. As he called upon us, he said, and to paraphrase, we all have a moral obligation when we see something unjust to do something. When we hear something unjust, to do something. And what his call beckons us to do is to find that call to action within ourselves. No matter how big or how small, every single call to action starts with an individual. And as we go forward in this coming year, I ask of you to find that burning call of action in each of you. Find one that is peaceful. Find one that promotes unity. Find one that promotes equality. And find one that promotes friendship.
Amen. It's been an absolute pleasure, Erick, to work with you all these years. I've grown to know you, share history with you, and to love you beyond limits. Thank you for your support of everything that we've tried to do in this season.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you. And that is the epitome of why we cannot wait.
Hello, everyone. I am Madeline Strongwoodley, thanking you for your presence and your continued support of our Dr. Martin Luther King 2021 celebration. We hope you've been inspired by this phenomenal piece of work. We'd also like to thank those that partnered with us and collaborated with us to make this endeavor possible. The 5 pillars of our foundation are celebration, education, tribute, solidarity, and service. We hope you're inspired to do that work as well. Finally, I'd like to issue a call to action. A call to action encouraging you to use your voice for the change we so desperately need. Thank you. God bless you.